Shalom. All praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushua, Ba'ashem, Arakah, Kodash. Double honors unto the elder apostles, the great mill son, who well, and shalom to the whole full elect. Additions to Esther 2, verse 1. In the fourth year of the reign of Ptolemus and Cleopatra, the Dositheus, who said he was a priest and Levite, and uh, Ptolemus, his son, brought his epistle of Purim, which they said was the same, and that Lasameus, the son of Ptolemus, that was in Jerusalem, Rosh Hashanah, had interpreted it. Right. So this is what was written. Right. Verse 2: In the second year of the reign of Artaxerxes, Artaxerxes, Artaxerxes the Great, in the first day of the month Nisan, Mordecaius, the son of Jairus, the son of Simei, the son of Sisai, of the tribe of Benjamin, had a dream, who was a Jew and dwelt in the city of Susa, a great man being a servitor in the king's court. Right, so this really just shows you, all right, the misunderstanding, the great misinterpretation of the word Jew today. All right, we actually had a woman come past the camp. She said she was, Jewish, but then, on further inspection, we found out she was actually an Asherite. All right, but she was a scholar of a sort that liked to go into, the information as far as different religion. So while I was under the thought that she was under the interpretation that she was a so-called Jew, I asked her, what does the word Jew mean? And she said it goes back to someone of Judea. I said, where did Judea come from? She didn't know. All right, but this is why, our people during that time, as you can see with a great man like Mordecai, all right, being of the tribe of Benjamin, okay, he said he was a Jew, all right, because he belonged to the kingdom of Judah, or what was otherwise known as a province or province of Judea, all right. So just like I'm over in London right now, I'd call myself a Londoner, all right. Or if I want to get very specific, due to the culture of London, an East Ender, all right. But it just shows you that there's a culture and there's a way unto itself, all right. So it's the same thing when in regard to Mordecai being named a Jew, all right, because it goes back to the split, and basically you had everyone that pertained, the tribes that were in, because you even had Simeonites, you had Asherites, you had Manassites, you had different tribes that would have been in the kingdom of Judah and would have continued to name themselves under the title of a Jew, all right, because they pertained to the kingdom of Judah. Right, verse 4. He was also one of the captives which Nebuchadnezzar the king of Babylon carried from Jerusalem with Jeconias king of Judea. And this was his dream. And that's quite deep. So it shows you that this man, Mordecai, goes back to when you go into the book of Daniel, the first chapter, about the choice men being brought into the land. And it really shows you something deep, because all of the great men that were in the time of Babylon, the great prophets, showed that they had a great level of skill, and it was through the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of this word. All right, this is our glory amongst the nations. That basically regard, when they see of our ways and hear of our ways, they say, "Who is like unto this people?" All right, and that's the same. In this day and age, the same things we do is regarded highly, because I'm sure in your work environment, your day-to-day life, you just pull things out of the bag that kind of make people like, oh, what made you think of that? Or why did you do that? It's a peculiar way. And I remember I used a zip tie to cut some tape, and they saw me pull the zip tie when the tape got put around, and I couldn't cut it like I could. I kind of realized I didn't have a knife, and I'm wondering, well, why you got a zip tie? And then when I use it to cut the tape, they're like, oh wow. They would have never thought of something like that. But that's a small a snapshot into these peculiar ways of things that we do. And really, that's ultimately, this word is written in you, but the laws, statutes, and commandments, I mean, I say written in you to, there's a remnant of it within your spirit, but we're in the flesh. But that wisdom, knowledge, and understanding is like the thing that puts us above these nations. All right, verse 5: Behold, the noise of a tumult with thunder and earthquakes and uproar in the land. And behold, two great dragons came forth ready to fight, and their cry was great. And at their cry, all nations were prepared to battle, that they might fight against the righteous people. Right. So this is the dream that Mordecai had. Let me start from verse 5 again. Behold, a noise of a tumult, a great noise with thunder and earthquakes and uproar in the land. So you can see that this thing is a great and devastating thing because you know, if you heard a tumultuous noise, thundering and earthquakes and uproar in the land, you'd think the world's about to end, right? Just the moment you hear, the clouds rolling with thunder, all right, and then the earth starts shaking and your building starts shaking, then you hear uproars of people. You think, it's a wrap. And behold, two great dragons came forth ready to fight. All right, and really, a dragon denotes the highest level of wisdom in through the symbolism of animals. The dragon is known for its cruel nature, all right, and its great power. So you had two assemble, that of Mordecai and that of Haman. All right, Haman was a great man in his house. He entertained many guests, and he even had it to the point where he could hang gallows in his within his his house, all right, within his borders of his house, all right, his estate. That shows you how great this man was in power, and he was entrenched, locked in a battle with Mordecai, all right. Obviously, he overlooked Mordecai because he thought, "Who is this man?" But really, the records, as the story showed, bared record of him that he'd done a great act and that he was a very wise man as time went on. All right. And their cry was great. And at their cry, all nations were prepared to battle. Right. And that's how great those two men are. It's really showing you that that power struggle denotes, was a rightful one because two dragons that brought these nations to war. All nations were prepared to battle that they might fight against the righteous people. Right. All the and this goes into the decree that was made. Haman stirred up the provinces of Persia so much so to where they were prepared to cull and commit genocide on the children of Israel, all right, the Jews in that time period, all right, and lo, a day of darkness and obscurity, tribulation and anguish, affliction and great uproar upon earth, right? So this was, a great time that was, with destruction upon the children of Israel, all right. Verse 9. The whole righteous nation was troubled, fearing their own evils, and were ready to perish. Right. Because even when that decree was made, all right, after Haman's death, it still stood. Because according to the way of the Persians, once they put something into law, into writing, it's committed. So the only thing they could do is not even counter it, but aid the Jews in that they could defend themselves. And even with Mordecai having great power within the system, people still, they felt how they felt. They said, well, we're going to do what we're going to do. And, through the spirit, they attained favor, but it still was something that was looming and hanging over their heads because anyone, could get busy and purge the children of Israel, right? As far as they could say, they could, when that decreed open, they were free game, all right, to be hunted. Verse 10. Then they cried unto the Most High, and upon their cry, as it were, from a little fountain was made a great flood, even much water. Right. And this is saying that, they went forth, Esther was speaking forth of being a spring, but this is also allowed the the Israelites within that time of dominion to be uh, exalted above amongst in the midst of these many nations, all right? Because they were basically picked on and pointed out within all the provinces. A strobe light, a limelight was cast on them, and it came down to the wild, and it became a great flood. All right, they basically performed under that stage light. Verse 11: the light and the sun rose up, and the lowly were exalted, devoured the glorious. Right, so it was made, and there was even in the province of Susa or Shushan. All right, what was it? It was that was there was a day added in addition, and more people were slew. All right, so they gained a great level of fame and favor in the eyes of many people within that province. Having Mordecai as well, basically in the same lot as Daniel, whereby he was given, the signet ring of Xerxes, to where basically he could anything he wanted to write into law, he could. All right, so that's like un unadulterated unadulterated means of power. Verse 12. Now then Mordecaius, who had seen this dream, and what the Most High had determined to do, was awake. He bare his dream in mind, and until night, by all means, was desirous to know it. So with that, pray you're edified. To the next one. Say shalom.